I'm Larry Menti. Welcome back to the Delaware Way. We continue our conversation with Jeff Flynn, who is the new Economic Development Director for the city of Wilmington. And we found out a moment ago he's already created jobs. Let's talk about this new economic development plan that the city of Wilmington and Newcastle County announced together. First of all, why was it important that the two of you did this together?
Because the city and the county we share a regional political jurisdiction, and because I think we have face some of the same challenges of crime and joblessness, we thought it made sense to use the same consulting company. And it was one of those things, Larry, I think the opportunity was brought to us by the county. Let me back up. The city was talking about doing an economic development plan for some time, and not just the city. Many of our stakeholders in the business community and other community leaders were talking about this around the time when the new administration came in. So these discussions were going on outside of the city and within the city. It just so happened that the county, they were having the same discussions. They had made contact with a national firm that does these sorts of studies. In fact, the Wadley Donovan Group had done a study in Newark. So Marcus Henry, Director of Economic Development for Newcastle County, came to my former director, Harold Gray, and said, we've decided to do this with this firm. Let's talk about it. Does it make sense? Would you be interested, city, in using the same firm? We talked about it, and we thought it made sense. The firm was a firm we would looked at even if the county hadn't have brought this to us. But I think the timing was right, and there were some cost savings and synergies to working with the same firm.
Now, you made an announcement there, and you held up lots of different studies, and Tom Gordon was there too, who is the county executive, and when he spoke, there seemed to be some direness. He talked about all of the industries, the chemical industry, the banking industry, auto manufacturers that have left, and that we have to do this fast. Do you share that same critical necessity, the feeling of critical necessity right now?
I do. I mean, there's a sense of urgency that permeates our offices over at City Hall. We know that city residents and our city businesses, we need to see some change. And let's face it, I think I said this in the op-ed, all of my colleagues and I at City Hall, we're challenged with the reality that change takes time, and some of the things we need to do, we need to change foundations, and that change may not be recognizable for years. But there's also this sense of urgency. What can we do in the near future to make the lives of our citizens better now? And so that's sort of the air at City Hall, and I heard that in County Executive Gordon's voice as well. Now, the county executive has a slightly different perspective. He's just simply by age, he's a generation above me. Right. And so he's, I can see where he's coming from. He's seen a lot of change over time. My perspective is, too, I know that the days of the large corporations here in Delaware are waning, but I also see that we have a lot of large corporations here in Wilmington in the financial services sector. They like Wilmington, they like Delaware, they're here for a reason, and we need to leverage that. That's
interesting that you talk about the generational difference, because he remembers when the area was booming with DuPont and with the automotive companies, and the port was really cooking, and so he's seen the decline that you maybe didn't experience. You came in when it was already lower, and so he might have a pessimistic view where you have an optimistic view because of that. Is that fair?
I think that is fair, yeah. But I definitely share his concerns. And I mean, when you look at when MB&A was here in Wilmington, wages were a little higher in that industry. There was more job availability, and I think County Executive Gordon sees those macro trends. But there's been a lot of really positive signs in our banking sector here in the city of Wilmington. JP Morgan Chase is adding jobs. Barclays is adding jobs. Barclays is growing at a very strong clip. And yes, they're primarily a credit card bank, but they're a very good one, and they're creating jobs. So I share the county executive's. I understand, what he sees from a generational perspective. and I think it's valid on a macro level, but I think there's been a lot of positive signs recently of how strong our banking sector remains.
Okay, we talked a lot about this plan. I do want to dig down into specifics because some of the numbers of jobs that are being thrown around, at least in the articles that I read, 30,000 jobs created. I want to find out where exactly those jobs could come from when we continue our conversation with the new Economic Development Director of Wilmington.